Hey guys, welcome back to another football video. I decided to get this shirt out so you guys could actually tell what position I play. My name's Theo. I play middle linebacker for the Hilversum Hurricanes. That's here in the Netherlands. This is in Europe. I do speak English. I'm an American expat. Guess what? Hi. So, on today's video, I'm going to actually tell you guys that I'm going to talk about comments in response to my other football videos. That's going to be the first part. Then we're going to talk about European news because there's a lot of stuff happening right now, especially with the European League that's going on. And then finally, we're going to talk about the topic that this video is about, the multiple types of linebackers and why there's a bit of confusion with some stuff. And below there's going to be chapter titles, or chapters, so you can actually go to the section. If you don't really care about comments in the news or on Europe and you just want to hear about linebackers, just go to that point. I don't know when it's going to be. I like to talk a lot. So this is the intro. We're going to get into comments right now. All right, rolling all the way back, football uniform suit up. Okay, going back to the last video that I did, the linebacker stance basics. Someone says, make it yourself 100% better every day, and on the 100th day, you'll be 100% better, and then keep going with the 100 emoji. I studied physics in high school and thus mathematics, and I understand how factorials work. So if I do 1% of 1% increasing every single day, it's going to be less than 100 days. But I get what you mean by that one. It makes sense, but it's very simplistic math. Thanks for the compliment, and I do attempt to do that one. But right now, everything's sort of under lockdown. But when I get back to practices, it's going to be that. Dallas Trujillo. I wish I could have a backplate because I play running back and someone could push me and do damage to my back. You're cool. Thank you. My comment response was, I've never heard of a rule banning backplates. I ordered a backplate in that football suit video that everybody comes to the channel for, basically. I had a backplate, and yeah, I ordered it, and it cost me like I didn't even order it. I went to Dick's Sporting Goods, I think, and I bought it for like 25 bucks. Backplates aren't that expensive, and if if a football league is banning extra protections, especially in a sensitive area like your lower back, I'm worried. Okay, and then just my opinion, one day ago says, hey man, I just started playing, I'm a running back, got any tips? And I'm addressing this here on this video, ball security. I'm a linebacker. I go for running backs. When they come through the hole, guess what? I can stop you, but when my hands are up in there and I can get that ball and I can pull it out, guess what? Turnover. If you got that ball on your 6-point puddle right here, it's going to be hard for me to pull it out. You may only get 1 yard, but at least you didn't lose control of the ball. But if you're only holding it with one hand, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go through the hole, and you like that, it's easy. I can punch that ball and it'll pop out the other side. If anything, our defensive ends will go out around and get it because you came through the hole and the defensive ends are going that way. If the ball flies behind you, defensive end can pick it up and they're already running towards the goal line. I fucked up. That's why I say ball security. That's the one thing Willie told me about running backs. You can shoot the hole, shoot the gap, get out the outside, be all the edgy you want. But if you lose control of that ball, you fucked up. Going with that meme thing from TikTok. Next comment on what's a good position about American football. This was a cool video. You got that one. It says, I play defensive end, I'm a big and squarish guy. I play linebacker too, but outside. It's what gave me the idea to make the video for later when I'm actually explaining things on the whiteboard. So yeah, we'll get back to that one. That was unknown user. We have another one from my old shoulder pads. When I did a review of those, I have the same shoulder pads, and I'm like, they're very good because they are skill pads, and they are really good and really lightweight for skill players. But I'm not. George Francis, 11 hours ago, which is really thick. I told him, I'm going to address your comment here in this video. I'm switching from defensive end to linebacker, but I was wondering if you get any extra tips. 6'1", 240 pounds, and he runs a 4.6. I personally have issues with the 40 time. It's like YouTubers holding themselves to the subscriber count. It really doesn't mean much because it doesn't practically do anything. You could have 100,000 subscribers. If you get 1,000 views, 2 comments, and 100 likes, 10 comments and 100 likes, what does your subscriber number mean? If you run a 4.6 as a linebacker, which is fast, aren't agile, that the thing is running a 4.6 is great if you're a gunner or you're a wideout or perhaps one of the running backs that gets to the outside. As a linebacker or even defensive lineman, you're dealing with a very small area. You want to worry about, as a linebacker, you want to worry about the shuttle, and your 3-point, the cone drill, the three cone drill, because that works on your change of direction and being able to turn. And like that thing, here's the thing, if you're blitzing the C gap, that's what that thing's for. You run forward, you hit the cone, and you take a right. That's that good drill. If you can do that fast, guess what? You're getting around that line if you're blitzing as an outside linebacker around the outside, because yeah, whole thing. Have other videos about that one. Also, with the agi thing, if you're middle linebacker, you got to sit there and you got to figure out, because that running back there is being a little ADD squirrel and he doesn't quite know what's going on. So you got to make sure that you're watching him, and especially if that quarterback decides to spill out, you got to make sure who has the ball and who you're going in that direction. So sometimes you're like, and you got to jump to the side. That's why I like the shuttle drill. But the 40 time, leave that to the people who like to run. Or if you're always on kickoff, then it's an issue. But most likely as a linebacker, you're going to be somewhere near the middle, and this is how kickoffs are supposed to go. You don't have to run fast, you just have to be the back end of the wall to make sure that everybody scoops around and gets for a group tackle. In theory, that's how it works. Everything for comments. If you guys want to have your comment, you can comment throughout the week. You can comment on any of my football videos. I will technically find them on other videos, and I will understand that they are. I'm above smart. I haven't had that many concussions yet. And so, yeah, you guys can comment on any of my videos, but most likely the football videos, and just ask questions. I'll answer them probably in the comment, and then I'll address it here so you can actually see my reaction, and then maybe I can go on a little bit more about it. All right, moving on to football news. Let's get into the Instagram, because that's where I have most of my information. We got, because I've been kind of absent from the Facebook. Twitter is just a trifling mess right now. ELF. ELF memes, ELF network. Fine, I think that one works. So there are currently 8 teams for the European League. This is a starting out league, hopefully being a on-level competitor with the NFL. To be fair, the players aren't necessarily as skilled as some of your top end NFL players, but in terms of like a grouping of a bunch of stuff, that's like, you could have all the various states have their own unique stuff, and then you could have a national team per se. It's a bit funky because in the states work a little bit different, but in terms of the NFL, the ELF is trying to be that. It's supposed to be a continent-wide professional American football league in Europe. And currently there's a lot of German teams, and there's one Polish team and a Spanish team. Those teams are currently 8 teams. Hopefully, if this thing is successful this year and actually gets stuff, it'll move on to increasing into more teams. I mean, the NFL is 32, so we're looking at 1/4 the number of teams. So we're currently looking at the Stuttgart Surge, which were recently formalized, and they had a combine yesterday. Centurions Cologne, Hamburg Sea Devils, Leipzig Kings, the Berlin Thunder, Panthers Wrocław Panthers, the Barcelona Dragons, and the Frankfurt Galaxy. Those are the 8 teams. And they will be utilized, and the Division North will be Hamburg, Leipzig, Wrocław, and Berlin. And the Southern League is Barcelona, Cologne, Frankfurt, and Stuttgart. At the time that post was made, Stuttgart didn't announce that they were the Surge. To be fair, their actual GFL team at Stuttgart is the Stuttgart Scorpions. So if you guys paid attention to other YouTubers that were, American football player imports, there was one of them that was a quarterback for the Stuttgart Scorpions. Okay, and I'm gonna put a card up here to some highlights that I found on YouTube this morning. Need my subscriptions. So you guys can see a quickie highlight video from American Football International. They report on all things around Europe. It's when seasons are going. This pandemic has thrown everything out the window, and right now, I do know that Austria and Italy and Poland is currently starting up their regular season for their internal country leagues. And I put a link up there for what you guys can see is the Chichi Falcons and the Warsaw Eagles. This happened yesterday, so there's a highlight thing. It's about a minute long. But highlights. A highlight is about 5 seconds long. So you can get about 20 highlights in there from an entire game. And those teams go at it. I'll also put one in for Spain, the Murcia Cobras and the Osos Rivas. It's Spain. LNFA over in Spain. So they're also playing. Also, if I find some Austrian, I think they're playing today. So Austria, a couple Austrian teams and some Italian teams are playing today. And I'll put some stuff below and we'll get all that stuff going. And I should probably start making, you know, playlists for this sort of stuff. So we've got a lot of stuff. That's ELF news. Stuttgart has created their team, and we've got American Football International is creating highlights of the games that are coming. They do relatively have some live streams, and sometimes I find the actual live streams, but the countries themselves have private production companies sometimes that put on the live stream of the game, so it's a little funky. Except for the fact that when you want to find it on, if there is one that's easily accessible, you can find it on American Football International. They usually will have a thing for live stream, and I go through there and find it, and sometimes I'll put links below, you know, to the actual live stream. You're going to watch the whole 3 hours of the game. Like previous videos, when I've talked about these, I did like Vienna Vikings, Danube Dragons. Yeah, I did that. You could watch the whole game. It was great because their head ref would like randomly go into German and English. It's a wild ride just with the languages on top of that one, because you'll hear all the American football lingo and then they'll speak German, but then they'll sometimes switch over to something that's just easier said in English, and it's a wild ride. It happens here in the Netherlands too, and I'm just like, oh, I love it so much. Let's get talking about the various differences between the people that are called linebackers. Okie dokie, so we're gonna sit here and we're just gonna put in a really, I am not known for straight things anyways. We're just gonna put in a very basic thing, because we're just generally gonna talk about positions. I'm not gonna talk about, you know, holes and gaps and all that jazz. So one of the generalized things, let's see, we're gonna use red for defensive linemen. So you've got like, let's just say a nose and your 3 tech, and then you have an end, and an end, and then you have the Mike, the Will, and a Sam. Generalized pictures, I don't really matter. Shake my weenie, I don't know. Okay, so now we're dealing with a very basic setup here on linebackers. We're looking at Sam, Mike, and a Will, yada yada yada, and ENTE. It's just, you know, to ends, nose, tackle, yada yada. We've got the general idea. People are like, oh, I was a lineman and now I'm an outside linebacker. Are you that one? Are you that one? Like, do you drop into coverage? Do you go outside? Do you do this? Are you an end that goes into the coverage to follow a tight end? I mean, in our case, you know, as one should do in a 4-3 defense, if the Will has to bounce out to take care of a slot receiver over there, the Mike moves over, the Sam moves over, and the strong safety comes in. Is the strong safety a linebacker now? We've got a bunch of confusing terminology coming around here, so it's sort of like, is a strong safety just a glorified linebacker? Is a Will linebacker just a wannabe defensive back? Are defensive ends wannabe linebackers? Is a Mike linebacker a wannabe defensive lineman? Like, I completely understand that some coaches utilize certain terminology. By and large, very specific with what they are. But like Nick Bosa, J.J. Watt, and Von Miller are all in that position. Von Miller is the only outside linebacker. The other two are defensive ends. Now, to be fair, I have heard that it's about rushing power, and that Nick Bosa and J.J. Watt are much more powerful than Von Miller. I'm like, okay, that's understandable. Whereas those two, Nick Bosa and J.J. Watt, would most likely jam the tackle and push him backwards. Von Miller's going to run around. To be fair, they're all really good at what they do. And they do it in their own little special way. But that's what I'm saying. Like, Von Miller's an outside linebacker. Other people have been considered outside linebackers. Like, I have actually had a team. I wasn't with that team very long because of injury. It was a clusterfuck to begin with. Anyways. But they were actually going with a 2-5 defense. And here I was trying to figure out what they did with a 2-5 defense. Well, we got a nose, and we got a tackle, and we got an end, a Will, a Mike, a Sam, and an end. Okay, that's cool. And then I've heard, like, some ends are considered flex ends. And there was this one team talking about one player, and he was a flex end because they actually moved him out into coverages or back into coverages a heck of a lot more, because the Sam, it's very confusing. This is the generalized idea as to what we're going to call stuff. Again, this is very basic. You want to flame me in the comments that I put the tackle in the wrong position? Go ahead. But this is, like I said, it's a generalized idea as to why linebacker is a very hybrid position. Because the Mike can actually come down here and work as a 5-2 with the two outside linebackers moving in, and neither of them middle because the middle moves up or the defensive end moves out. The strong safety comes in, the will moves out and is actually covering someone out there. So you have like corner, strong safety, will, corner, and then the free safety's out there being a little toddler wandering around the back field getting lost picking daisies. But then you've got, like I said, these two can move in. This guy's going to come up here and blitz with the nose tackle and push that center back to Kingdom Come. Completely understandable. After a fashion, you can learn to like perhaps split the box in this way. So it really doesn't matter whether you're talking about, you just have your external and your internal players. So like I said, the Mike can back up a little bit, the Mike can come forward, the Mike can shift over and be coming here. This is, in my brain, how I divide up the field. Now these angles change when you're dealing with like a 3-4. Let me draw that one up real quick. Okay, so now we're here dealing with a 3-4 defense. There's no more Sam because you're not dealing with an odd number, so you don't have to worry necessarily about a strong side. Because these guys are lined up evenly, and yeah, you have a tight end, but that just means that either one of these guys can come down. You don't have to do a lot of shuffling around because B and J are typically your outside linebackers, M and W are your inside linebackers. And so when you're going to divide up the field, you've divided up the box, you've now done that. Notice you still have, it's just inverted because you still have your outside, which goes into the flats coverage and deeper stuff, and these guys focus here in the central area. So, and this is probably where some of the confusion lies because 3-4 and 4-3 can ridiculously be interchanged because anybody can play football. And if you've got a bunch of guys here in the box that have they have a very narrow range of what their body types are, you can move these guys around. I've talked about that in a previous video. You can move them around and you can confuse the offense because if they don't know, like if you swap these two, it may not be like, because I've been in games where they're just like 44 Mike, 44 Mike, 44 Mike, and I'm just like, that's a really weird call. Oh wait, I'm wearing number 44. But I wasn't the Mike at the time. I just happened to be in the middle because the will had to bounce out. I was playing the Sam linebacker, but I had to move over to the middle in the last example, and the Mike moved over. And since I was in the middle, they called me the Mike, but I really wasn't the Mike. That was actually our dude who was like 6'6". Oh my God, he was big. Bono's amazing. Anyways, but that's basically what I'm getting at here is that there is more general ways of thinking the box than just defining yourself by an outside linebacker. You're an outside player, which means you're dealing with these vertical areas versus this vertical area. So yeah, that's pretty much that. I've talked a lot about the general confusion between outside linebacker, defensive end, and glorified defensive back, I guess. So anyways, if you have any questions about this or you have any insights as to your own as to why certain NFL players are called outside linebackers when they actually act a lot like defensive ends, comment below. I'm really curious about this one because it seems that if we can clarify this one, we can start utilizing normal language going forward, at least in my videos, so that when I'm talking about things, I can stay consistent in how I talk about things and give advice to people later. But I'm taking a wild guess if someone went from defensive line to outside linebacker, you're probably moving into much more of those forward playing players. And so we've actually had a number of people, like our nose sometimes works as a tackle, if not a defensive end, because during lockdown, he actually lost a lot of weight. And one of our ends wound up moving into nose, and because he said, I get lockdown time for me to eat. Plus the American was hanging around a lot more and I taught them about nachos. But anyways, I will chat with you guys later. We will chit chat. Again, comments below, everything in the future. Remember, the chapters were there if you want to go back and watch like the ELF news or whatever. Yeah. Bye-bye.